The Sikha we'll be learning today is, we look at the Sikhas, Chelik Chov, the third Sikha. And here it talks about when Avram Avinu sent Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak, and he came, and then he davened to the Eibishter, and he said that if I see this girl, I'm going to ask her to give me some water to drink, and she's going to say, I'll give you camels also. I know that's the one that Hashem wants her to be the wife of Yitzchak, etc. And then the Pasuk says, that's how we're going to start the Sikha. It's going to start with the next Pasuk. Even Pasuk Vahi Hu Terem Kilo Ledaber, and it was before he even finished. Before he finished speaking, he was speaking that tefillah. Before he finished, V'hina Rivka Yetzis. Rivka already was going out. That means that he was answered even before he finished the tefillah, before he finished the davening. Bring the Medrash, the Maimon from the Reb Shimon ben Yochai. So the Medrash brings the statement, the saying of Reb Shimon ben Yochai. And he says like the Shloish Shahem Nanu b'Mayne Piyam. There were three people that were answered as they were talking. The B'Mayne Piyam means as their mouth was saying it, they were answered right away. Who are the three? Eliezer Avdi Shel Avram, Eliezer the Eved of Avram, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Shlomo HaMelech. And the Medrash tells us, where do we see that these three were answered right away? Eliezer, where do we see he was answered right away? Because the pasuk says, "Vahi hu terem kilo l'daber." It was before he even finished speaking. Rivka was already going out, and she was the one destined to be the wife of Yitzchak. Moshe, where do you see by Moshe? The Ksiv, it says by Moshe, when the whole story of Korach. So Moshe said to the Eden, stay away from Korach, and he said that if I am right, then Hashem is going to make a special miracle, and the earth will open up, and all of them will fall into and drown into the water, into the land. And the pasuk says, as he finished saying it, all these words, the earth split, etc., and he got swallowed in the game, etc. So here again, we see by Moshe that it was as soon as he finished speaking. By Shleime, the Ksiv, it says, it was in Shleime, made the Chanukas Habayis, the dedication of Beis Hamikdash, and he davened to the Eibishter that the Shechina should come down. So the pasuk says, as Shleima finished davening to Hashem, and the fire came down from heaven, etc., etc. So here are three people that were answered right away. From Pashtas Loshen HaMedrash is Mashmal Chure. First glance, it seems, from the simple Loshen of the Medrash, Adrinya was PM, that this idea that they were answered right away as soon as they finished davening is verbunden mit der Meil Ishes von die Ausgerechnete Shloishe. Is because of the special qualities that these three people had. That's what it seems from the Loshen. It says there were three people that were answered right away. So it's because these people were special people, they were answered right away. And since by all three you have the same reward that they were answered right away, so what the Rebbe is going to try to say, so it seems to be that all three are within the same category. Especially the Medrash says, the Medrash says there are three that were that were answered. The Medrash didn't have to say there were three. The Medrash could have said, these are the people that were answered right away. I mentioned that. Eliezer, Moshe, and Shlomo. The Medrash says clearly, Shloisha. There were three, which means that we include all of them together. He's moving from that. We understand that there is a common denominator, a common mila, the Rebbe says, a common quality in the Aladrai in all three. That there's something in common, at least one mila in common of all three of Eliezer, Moshe, and Shlomo. The Rebbe says we have to understand. How could you compare Eliezer Eved Avram to Moshe and Shlomo? I mean, they were much higher. And even if we're going to say they're only equal, they're only similar in one mile. But even whichever mile that is, that one mile is also, you can't say that Eliezer was similar to Moshe and Shlomo. So how does the Medrash put them all together? To me is no aggressive in Meforshim, Frank. The question is even more as Meforshim ask. The nanim might be in Tfilas Eliezer, given by Yisra and Gicher of the Tfilas Moshe Shlomo. The question was that how could he say they're all equal? Not only it seems like Eliezer is even greater. If we're saying it's because of the level of the people or the milas of the people, seems like by Eliezer it says even more. The fact that he was answered was even in a greater level than it was the Tfilas of Moshe Shlomo. Where do we see it? By Eliezer and Shteit Terem Kilo L'Daber. By Eliezer it says it was answered before he finished speaking. And it's nennen geworden noch einer hat gern design Tefillah before he finished. Schenke by Moshe Shlomo does give him big Martfilas. Moshe Shlomo it was after they finished, right away. But as soon as they finished, by Moshe, it says, and it was as he finished speaking, that's when the earth opened up. By Shleima, it says, as Shleima finished davening, that's when the fire came down. It comes out, there's something special, extra, in Eliezer over Moshe and Shleima. So that's hard to say. What's the pshat? We also have to understand, das is inside the mile from the mention. If it's because the specialty of these people, the way it seems from the lotion of the Medrash, if it was the grace of the people, why taka did it happen only by them, only by these three? A lot of great tzaddikim. So we have to say that the fact that these three were answered right away is verbunden nicht as sehr viel mit der Meile von dem Mispalim. It's not so much because the greatness, the specialty of the people, the individuals that davened. It was mainly because of what they davened for. It was what the tefillah is about. These three tefillahs have something in it that should be answered right away. And the Rebbe in the Orah 10 says, actually, Medrash HaGodel, it says that it's not only by these three. After the Medrash says that these three were answered right away, as we just mentioned before, he adds, he says not only they, but all the tzaddikim are answered right away. And he quotes a posek, Yeshaya, where it says, before you even call, I'll answer. David also said, listen to me as before even or as I'm finishing. So it seems like the Taka not after by three. The Rebbe is asking what's the specialty of these three. When the Medrash is mashman, that's not. So the Rebbe says it's not so. True. The fact that he divides it into he doesn't say all tzaddikim this happened. He says it happened to these three. That's one bove, one part. Then he says he has another separate part, and all tzaddikim also. The 8 week, and especially Maaseh B'Peil, and also in the Torah, we see only clearly by these three it happened. By the other tzaddikim also happened, but we don't see it in the Torah written. Torah doesn't stress it. By these three we do. So first of all, even the Medrash which says it happens by other tzaddikim too, but by these three is a special category. Especially that here is the only ones that we see it actually in the Torah. Moving for that, we understand. Must be that the main thing is by these three tefillahs. Not because of these three people who they were, but it was because the subject, the issue what it was about, that deserves that it should be answered right away. Is Deirish Beer, but we have to understand. What's the Maila Michedes from the Gimel Tefillahs was Dafke Bazei given what's so special about these three things they were davening for, that Dafke here was the senior that they were answered right away. And obviously also, and why Eliezer was answered even earlier, answered even before he finished. So we have to understand what's so special about these three subjects, these three issues that we're talking about. To understand this, let's first the Rebbe says, try to understand what's the specialty, why is it so special that you're answered right away? So the Rebbe explains it like this. The Rambam in Sefer Hayad, the Rambam in his Sefer Hayad, in the Rambam, and here's the gate to remember which halacha. So you look at Order 11, Hilchas Tshuva, Peirik Zayin, Halacha Zayin, the seventh halacha. The Rambam says like this. The Rambam says, as eine von den Meilen von Abal Tshuva is was is sake von einem Yad. One of the specialties of Abal Tshuva, someone who repents to Hashem, is that he screams, which means he davens, and he's answered right away. As the Lashon, the expression of the Rambam is like this: Kama ma'ula mailas tshuva. Look how great is the greatness of tshuva. Yesterday, before he did tshuva, he was separated from Hashem, the God of the Eden, and therefore he would scream daven and not be answered. And today, when he does tshuva, he's connected to the Shechina, and he screams, he's answered right away. So here we see a concept being answered right away, which is connected to union of about tshuva. From Bashtain, so the Rebbe said we have to understand in the halacha shelifnes, in the previous halacha, the one that we read before is in Hilchas Shuva Peirik Zayin halacha Zayin. In the same place, Hilchas Shuva Peirik Zayin halacha Vov, which is the previous halacha. Zog the Rambam says like this: Hatshuva mekarebes sarachik. Tshuva brings close the ones that are far. Yesterday, before he did tshuva, he was hated, so to speak, by Hashem. He's disgusting and he's far, etc., etc. Vayem, who today is beloved, v'nechbad, and he's lovely, korev, and he's close, v'yedid, and he's a friend. So the Rambam first describes what we just read now, and then he says what we read before, that now he screams, cries, and davens to Hashem, and is answered right away. L'chure, this that the Rambam writes that he's answered right away, is a result of what the Rambam writes first, that Baal Tshuva is beloved and lovely and close and a friend by Hashem. So that's the reason why when he davens Leibish, is answered right away. So why does the Rambam make it a separate thing? Two halachas. One halacha, he says, the first one is that he's very close to Hashem, etc., etc. Then there's a separate halacha that he screams, he's connected to Hashem, and he screams and he's answered right away. Why is it two separate yonim? They should go together. When the Rambam says that he was before, he was far, etc., etc., right away in the same halacha he should say, but now that he's close, so now he's answered right away. Why does he make it two halachas? No, the pshat must be like this. But must verstehen from the beer and the zwei halachas now. So we'll understand why the Rambam puts it in two halachas to understand something else in these two halachas. Beide halachas haben demselben Teichen. Both halachas seem to be saying the same idea, same contents as it has. Durch tshuva bet manon zum Eibishter. Through tshuva you get close to Hashem. So why does the Rambam tell us twice the same thing? So the question before is, why doesn't he make it in one halacha? Now there's another question. Bechali repeats himself. The first halacha he writes that before he was disgusting and he was far and now he becomes close, etc. The next halacha, which is the first one that we read, but that's the second halacha, he said, you know how great tshuva is? He's connected to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter answers him right away. Are these two the same things? But the Rebbe says the pshat, it's not the same thing. The Rambam sagt, zwei darges in Meiles tshuva. The Rebbe says two levels in tshuva. The Fartelter is in zwei besondere halachas. That's why he says it in two halachas. First he says one thing, and that's one level. And the second halacha, where he says that he's answered right away, etc., is a separate level of tshuva. Meaning like this. In the first halacha, he says about tshuva becomes close to the Shechina. Like it says in the beginning of that halacha, that's how the Rambam started that halacha. Tshuva is so great that it makes a person close to the Shechina. In them, this expresses itself in what the Rambam says in that same halacha. So yesterday he was hated, he was far, and today he's beloved, he's lovely, he's close. So he was far before, now he's close, he did, and he's friendly. That's one level of tshuva. The second one is speaking if a person does a higher level of tshuva. And as if you look at the Lashon of the Rambam, he says, how great is the Maila of tshuva? So it comes out that this is another Maila that he's saying compared to before. Like the Rebbe says in our 18, like the simple meaning of the words, Mu'ule Mailas HaTshuva. What does it mean, Mu'ule Mailas HaTshuva? Is the goodness of tshuva. Shemeir al Maldeina Yeser, Elyeina Yeser, Milaloshe Bechilas Halacha Dela Tshuva, which shows on a higher level than what starts off the halacha, starts off how great tshuva is. And the next halacha, he says, how much it has a maila, which means it's a maila over what he said before. Before he just said it's great, G'dela, makes a person close. And here is another madrege, that he is Mu'ule. And Mu'ula means, as nid blaze betman oyev noch mat korab yidid, not only that you become beloved and lovely and close and a friend to the Eibishter, which is korab l'shchina. That was the first level. Now it's not only that. Here he says in the second level, when you do a higher level of tshuva, mudbeg b'shchina. Here you become connected to the shchina. The first one is close, and this is connected. Far einsig, one, united. Dveikus b'shchina. You are dovug. You are connected to the shchina. So there are two levels. One level is you're close to the Shechina. The other level is you're connected. It's much closer. You could be close but not connected. Connected means not only you're close, but you become one. You become Meuched with the Shechina. Und der Rabbi stellt der Rambam der Minya von Zeik von einem Jahr in der Halacha. That's why the Rambam, when he says that you're answered right away, he writes in this Halacha, in the second Halacha, behemshach to the Minya von Ayem Mutim B'Shechina, in connection to that, saying that he's connected to the Shechina. When not in the Friedrich Halacha Ha'inyan from Makurav B'Shechina. It doesn't say in the first Halacha, the previous Halacha, where he says that's a level of tshuva where you become close to the Shechina. There he doesn't say you're answered right away. But when he says you become connected to the Shechina, then it says that. While those was the fact that you're answered right away comes as a result of the fact that you connected to the Shechina. By being close doesn't mean you're answered right away. But if you're connected, then you're answered right away. The Asbora Bezend explanation is it's self-understood, but the Rebbe explains it. The Yeshia's mama says, "Doyer bizazach kum for them to the makabel." Someone wants to give something to somebody. How long does it take? So the amount of time it takes is ababais shows that the makabel is nit dovuk umuchet mit neisen. If there takes an amount of time, could be not too much, too long time. But one thing is, if it takes time to come from one person to the other, shows that you're not one. You're not connected. And certainly that they're not one. They're two separate things. They're two separate things, and they're not connected. And even that, they're two separate inyonim, which is pshita, which is even more. You're not so close, you're not connected, and you're obviously you're a separate entity. But when they're connected and united, is nit. There's no delay. There's no separation in time via Zayin and Tobavok, just like in place. If you're very close, not very close. If you're very close, you could be very close. You could be 10 feet away. You're still close. You're not far, you're 10 feet away. But you're not one. But if you're, so then you're far in space. You're not, in other words, there is a hefsek, a separation in space, which automatically means a separation in time. It takes time to get from one place to another. Besides the fact that in Chassidus it says, time and space go together. Time is measured by space, space is measured by time, etc., etc. But the point is that if you're not connected, you could be close. There's a delay. Takes time between the thing that is coming to you from where it starts until it gets to you. But if you're dove, you're connected, so there is no delay. The balls is they're all one, on and up till without a separation between them. And the Rabbi, therefore, like this. We send the Rambam. The Shasa mentions when the person is just close to Hashem, he could be Ov, the Nechmot, Korebi, he could be beloved, he could be lovely, and he could be close, and he could be a friend. As long as you're not connected to the Shechina, is a noch a name true. Azaynik achov since you beloved, but the Rabbi shter onem as abakosher. Hashem will accept what you said because you're so close. She's aber nit muchlech as zayin enemy. Yeah, doesn't have to be right away. It could take time because if you're close, it still takes time because there's separation between the two, so it takes time. Only when you're connected to the Shechina, the second level, the mispalal is dovuk the meuchat zu dem welche entferten, that the one that's davening and is connected and united with the one that's supposed to answer him is an enen and even for dveik. So you're answering in a connection, in the being united. Take it from yad because you are there. You are the one that you're asking for something is one with you. So therefore, if he answers, it doesn't take any time. If you're close, he'll answer you because if you're close, he wants to answer you, but it takes some time. So the first halacha, the Rambam doesn't say that he's answered right away. In the second halacha, when you're dovuk, higher level of tshuva, then he's answered right away. So this has been the person. The person is about tshuva, and about tshuva gets close to Hashem, and then there's a higher level where he gets united with Hashem, dovuk to the Shechina. So in that case, there's a difference how fast you're answered, if you answered right away or not. But the Rebbe says, just like it depends on the person, what kind of person he is. The one that's davening, the Inyan von Seif, and is verbunden mit that itself, and then was mit Beshina, that's as the answering, being answered right away is connected and is a result of the fact that you're connected to the Shechina. Al der as Yashleimer is as beneged der Hefze de Meile und der Teichen von der Tefillah. So too could be not because of the person, but it could be connected to what the meaning of the tefillah is, what the issue of the tefillah is, the meile and the contents of the tefillah. But in our case, what we're talking about, the meile from the gimel tefillahs, the specialty of the three tefillahs, as is eine verbunden mit Inyan von Veikus beschrieben, that these three tefillahs have to do in yonim, they're in issues that show the connection to the Shechina, not the closeness to the Shechina, the connection to the Shechina. And that's why in these three dafke was answered right away. Like we said before, if the person is connected, he's answered right away. So when the tefillah is about connection to the Eibishter, connection, not just closeness, it's also right away. And the Rebbe says in the order that the one that said this in the Medrash is Reb Shimon ben Yochai, because what the main thing, when is it, as the Rebbe will explain later, this idea that you're connected to the Shechina, is connected to Torah. By Reb Shimon ben Yochai, it was the Torah. Tefillah, it's not only because it's Tefillah, but by Reb Shimon ben Yochai, his Tefillah was connected to Torah. We know the story that was once need of rain, and they came to Reb Shimon ben Yochai, and he said Torah and it rained. Not like Cheni Amagel, the Daven to the Eibishter made rain. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai is in a higher madrege. Torah, and by Torah there is more dveikus. And that's why this idea that we're talking about these three things, and they were answered right away, is because what the concept that we're talking about is about something that's dveikes to a Shechina. That's why Reb Shimon Yochai is the one that said it. Okay, but was metel to dafke di drei tefillah. Since we're saying that sometimes it's not the person, but it's the tefillah, what the tefillah is about. That's where you get dovah to the Shechina, and that's where you're answered right away. We could explain why the Medrash specifically makes this group of these three. Which three? The tefillah shleima, the tefillah of shleima, that's connected to the connected to the union of dveikus in the Shechina, the kesher to gilei Shechina, v'shachanti b'seicha b'mikdash, that the tefillah was concerning the Beis Hamikdash, which is the place where the Shechina is nisgala, the Shechina reveals itself. The shachanti b'seicha, the Shechina says, I'm resting in it, inside, in the Mikdash. So this is concept concerning gilei Shechina in the Mikdash. So right away we see this is in connection to the union of being very close, not close, very connected to the Shechina. And the second thing is Tefillah Meisha with Kesher to Machlekes Keirach, the Tefillah Meisha, which is in connection to the argument of Keirach. When Moshe Rabbeinu said that what's going to happen, the earth is going to open up and they're going to be swallowed into the ground. And he said, B'zei stayed, with this you will know Ki Hashem Shlachani, Hashem sent me. How will you know? Hashem will create something new, make that hole in the ground. You will know that I'm a shliach. And what's a shliach? Also, as we will see later, then we will explain, is how you are connected to the Shechina. And the third thing is that Tfilas Eliezer and the Kesher Nisu Yitzchak Gerivka, which is in connection to the marriage of Yitzchak and Gerivka, which is also something that has to do with the Dveikus of the Shechina. So that's why the Medrash picks these three as one group. That these three contain, in general, the idea of the revelation of Hashem in the form of being united and being Dveikus, connected to the Shechina, which is there in the creation. There are three things in the creation that is connected to the idea of being one with the Shechina. In Welt, how the world is really one with the Shechina. In Bnei Adam, could be one with the Shechina. And in Torah, how Torah is one with the Shechina. And these three represent one of these three. One is connected, how there's the Dveikus of the Shechina in Welt, in the world. One is Dveikus in the Shechina with people. And the other one is Dveikus in the Shechina in Torah. And this is how the Rebbe explains this. The Gilei Alakus in Welt, in Ha'ifim von Nisardus, is the Gilei Shechina v'Sigven b'Mikdash. Where do we see a revelation of Hashem, of godliness in the world, in the form of being united, being one, is the revelation of the Shechina in the Beis Hamikdash. Because Gilei Alakus in Mikdash is given b'Eifim, the revelation of godliness in the Mikdash in such a way as Mokim et Nisargi var mit Alakus. The place became one with godliness. But Gizen be'ein the you could see physically with your eyes. And the Mokim Gashmi is bottled to the Kusha Mailam and Amokim. That the physical place is bottled to godliness, which is higher than space. The space is bottled one with godliness, which is higher than space. These are the Mokim Guf is given Hecher for Mokim. The place became beyond place. Like the Chazal tell us, Mokim Oren Einim in Amide. The place of the Oren of the Holy Ark did not take a place. The ark took a place. There was a special size, 2.5 ameh by 1.5 ameh. It was a special size, and it was in a room. And at the same time, it didn't take up any space, which begashmis means when let's say the Kodesh HaKadoshim was 10 amas by 10 amas, let's say. So it's 10 amas. So if you would measure from one side of the Orim to the wall, and other side of the Orim to the wall, each side was 5 amas. How could that be? The Orim was in the middle. It also took up 2.5 amas, let's say, in the length. So it should be 12.5. So it should be not 5 and 5, but it should be together 6.25 and 6.25 on each side. No, the Orim had to take up space. It had to be a size, and nevertheless, it didn't take up space. So here you see how there was Gilui Elokus in the Welt. It was Nisachet. It was part of the world. Became the Gilui Elokus. This is what Shlomo Melech was davening for. He said, Boni benisi beis vulach, I built for you a dwelling place, a dwelling place where you should rest forever. And he said even more, the heavens and the heavens of heavens cannot contain you. But this house can. The house that I built for you can contain you. That means in the house you had godliness being part of the house of the Kodesh HaKadosh, of the Beis Hamikdash B'chal. And right away, as soon as he finished the tefillah concerning the Beis Hamikdash, he was answered right away. Now, the Rebbe says in order 30 that it's not so clear why this union of Mokim Oren Einim and Amida, that the Oren didn't take up space, did not happen before. This didn't happen in the Beis Hamikdash after this tefillah. But main thing, when this tefillah was answered, and it happened right away, because we're talking about a concept that has to do with being dovug b'shchina. Okay, it says, as he finished davening, the fire came down from heaven, the great Hashem alas habayis, and the covered under Hashem filled up the house. The resting of the Shechina became revealed in the Beis Hamikdash. And from then on, the resting of the Shechina there remained forever, eternally. The Rambam says that even now, in the Mokim HaMikdash, in the Kedesh HaKadoshim, or the Bechal Beis Hamikdash, the Shechina is there. So this is Dveikus in the Shechina. And that's why, and as we said before, anything that's dovuk to the Shechina, so there is no time for it to be finished, to be done, to be answered. That's why this is one tefillah that was answered right away, because this is a tefillah concerning the Shechina coming down to the Beis Hamikdash, and it was in the form of dveikus. And as we said before, concerning Baal Tshuva, if he's dovuk to Hashem, is one with Hashem, connected, then it's answered right away. That's concerning the Gilui Shechina in Welt. The Beis Hamikdash was a place of the world, a physical place of the world, where there was Gilui Shechina. The Gilui Shechina to Bnei Adam Be'ifin Sheletzach. Where do we see the revelation of the Shechina to people in a form of being connected? Is the Rinyan HaNevuah. That's being a Novi. Gilo Seide El Avodah HaNevim. The Nevuah, the prophecy, is called, the Eibishter reveals his secrets to his servants, the Neviim. That Shalosh of the Posik in Amos. So he reveals the secret. The Rebbe here says revealing the secret means secret is something that's very inner. And that is revealing a secret is something that's inside. That means when you reveal a secret, that means the person who gets the secret is very close to you. And in this case, if they're so close that you become united with that Gilui Hashchina. This is also a fundamental concept in our religion, our Emunah. Loshna Rambam, the Rambam says, from the foundations in Yiddishkeit is to know that Hashem gives prophecy to people. That means he unites himself with the people. The union of the revelation of Nevuah is that the person becomes dovuk, connected and united with the Eibishter. And he brings in order 35, the Lashon of the Rambam, he says that when he becomes a Novi, you're changed to another person. You're basically a godly person, not like you were before. And in the Rambam brings, you change to another person. That's all connect what we said, because you become, not the pshat you get, Hashem answers you. You become one with Hashem, so to speak. Bees, Adedvar Hashem is mislabish, till the words of Hashem, this is a lotion that says in Sharif in Tanya, is mislabish besichlum v'asagosim b'mara. It's mislabish, it get dressed into the rationale, the seichel, and the grasping, the hasoge, in the way you see the nevuah, the gam, machshavtam, the diburim. And even it's connected to their machshava, their thoughts and their speech. That means the Navi becomes one. And the Rebbe in order 37, even though this mainly happened by Moshe, but all the Nevi'im were similar to this in a lower level, but the same idea of being completely dovuk to the Eibishter. And that was the davening that Moshe Rabbeinu was answered right away. The davening to show that his nevuah is from Hashem. So it's a inyan of nevuah. A nevuah is the inyan of being dovuk to Hashem. The fathers are nane geworden beyad. That's why he was answered right away. You will know now that Hashem sent me, which I'm a novi of Hashem to do everything. And he said, how will you see that? If these people will die like regular people, then le Hashem shlachani, Hashem didn't send me. And if there will be a new creation, Hashem will create something now, then you know that I'm a Novi, that Hashem sent me. So here also, if he says in Bria, Hashem will create, Hashem will come down and become part of the Bria, but part of the Bria to show the union of Nevuah. The says that means like this. As a neat and asymmetric of the meaning from Kol status Moshe. This what Moshe was trying to prove by saying this, that they will be swallowed in the ground, is not to prove that the Torah came from Moshe, Torah's Moshe, the general. That all the commandments and the mitzvahs of the Torah were told to Moshe Rabbeinu in Sinai. That's not what he was trying to prove. That's not what he was saying. To show that he is a shliach of the Eibush to do everything that he did. Which thing did he do? Lost his Laden to give the high priestship to Aaron, Ubonov, Skani Kuna, and his children will be the second to the Kuna, and Litzofim should be the Nosi of the tribe of the section of Kohos. So he wants to prove just this. He's not proving the Torah. He's proving that he's the Novi. This is something in addition, something special over the fact that it's part of Torah. This is Shlichus and Nevuas Moshe. This is all Shlichus and the Nevuah of Moshe. And that Nevuah is Gilo Seidei. The Eibush reveals his secrets, and that's why he's going to create something new. That when he made this, see, the Torah was something from before that he said the Torah. But here we're talking about something new he's going to make. So it's not going to negate the general idea of Torah, something new to reveal a secret to Moshe, which means the Nevuah. And Moshe Rabbeinu in this tefillah was trying to prove the Nevuah. This is Nevuah. Was Besuga but the most is given Nevuah Shara Nevi in the same category as the Nevuah of other Nevi'im. He was trying to prove he's the Navi, but it's proving the concept of Nevuah. And therefore, this is something that has to do with Dovuk B'Shechina, because Nevuah is the way people are Dovuk to the Eibishter. That's why this was also answered right away, because if you're Dovuk, and they're talking about the Inyan that's Dovuk, it comes right away. There's no space in between. You're one with it, so it happens right away. And the Dritte Reifen called it in Torah, and the third one, which is the Gilui Ashchina, as we said, where the Eibishter reveals himself in the Torah, because as we know, the Raise v'Kuchabricha Kulachad, the Eibishter and the Torah are one. So here right away we see, when we talk about Torah, revelation of Hashem and Torah is definitely Dovuk, because the Torah and the Eibush is Dovuk. But this is Farbun mit Tfilas Eliezer Kedilakama. That's connected to the case of Eliezer and the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. As the Rebbe will explain now, where does the union of Torah have to do with the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka? And the Rebbe is going to explain it. And therefore we will see how Dafka, these three, are Nana answered right away, because they're connected to Inyonim, which is Dovuk to the Shechina. And we'll see that in the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, it's even further, faster. It came before because that's a higher madrig, as the Rebbe will explain. How is the explanation? The Parshas Eliezer, Zong Razal, concerning the whole Parsha, the story with Eliezer, the Chazal say Yofes Echosen Shel Avdos Mitarosen Shel Bonim. We see in the Torah that the Torah repeats the whole discussion of Eliezer twice, and the Gemara says, the Chazal tell us, Rasha brings it. It's not in Gemara, but it's in Precious Rabbi Medrash, that here we see that the discussions, the talk of the avodim of the Ovis, which is in this case Eliezer, is even better, nicer than the Torah of the. Why would we see that Torah sometimes Torah says one letter, and from that we have to learn not a lot of halachas. And here Torah repeats the whole thing. And the bottom line is that we say that the discussion of what happened to Eliezer is even more nicer, Yofe from the Torah. Was von dem was dem is meirich sich aus schlaf die Ovis und noch beten von Yofe gegen Trotzen shel Bonim. Since the Torah compares what happened by Sichos shel Avdi, which is the story of Eliezer, Torah compares it to Trotzen shel Bonim, to the Torah of Eden. And not only that, compares it in a form that says it's even Yofe, it's more nicer. It's moving as so that right away tells us there is a connection between the story of Eliezer and Torah. Torah compares it, the Chazal compare it. So it means a comparison. And not only that, this has even a mile over it. What's the comparison? Chassidus says, what's the connection between what happened to Eliezer here to Torah? So Chassidus says, that what happened to the Ovis, the discussion of the avodim of the Ovis, mainly, specifically in concerning the shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka, is klolos inyan of Torah mitzvah. That represents the klolos inyan of Torah. Now Chassidus goes into Al Pikabola, what this whole union of this marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka has to do with Torah. In Torah by Riches, that's what the Torah tells it us at length. Why? That this was what happened by Yitzchak and Rivka is a general inyan, a major inyan, an ikras inyan that brought to the general inyan of Matan Torah, which is the Torah of the children, which means the Torah. So the Rebbe explains it. What's the connection to Yitzchak and Rivka's marriage to Torah? The Bir Bezeh, the explanations of this. The roof of Matan Torah is the specialty of Matan Torah. The Rebbe says, like I explained many times, is the Chibur for Nolyenim Betachtenim. Is that Matan Torah accomplished? There should be the union, the connection from the above to the below, from godliness to earthly things. Bis Matan Torah gewend Gzeras al Yenim Le'er L'Tachtenim V'Tachtenim Le'ar Yenim. Till Matan Torah, there was a decree, there was a separation between El Yenim, spiritual things, godly things, and Tachtenim, low things of this world. By Matan Torah, the Gzeira bottle geworden. Matan Torah, the Gzeira was nullified, the decree was nullified, and Tachtenim Yalo Yenim. The ones from below go up, connect to the above, and the one from above go down. Das heißt, which means, as durch Matan Torah tut sich auf der Chibur von Welt, Tachtenim, mit der Lakus, was ist Hecher von Welt. Diese werden Mechuber Yachad. The Matan Torah, what happened, that the low, the connection of the world, which is low, connects itself to Hashem, which is beyond the world, in a form that they become Mechuber Yachad, become one. And we see that when we mizetes in the minyan kiyum mitzvah Matan Torah, we see it that concerning when a yid does a mitzvah after Matan Torah, like when we do a mitzvah, so we see aduch makayim and a mitzvah davar gashmi. When you do a mitzvah with a physical object, peilt man the gashmi gezach mit akela tzelakus. We cause that the physical object becomes a vessel to godliness. There are many levels. They could become tashmisha mitzvah. They become objects that are used for a mitzvah. They become tashmisha kedusha, object used for kedusha, and there's different levels. Some things are tashmisha mitzvah. They don't get its own holiness, but it's like tzitzis is used for a mitzvah, so it has something special about it. Some things are tashmisha kedusha, like piece of parrot film. See, tzitzis themselves are not holy, but they're a part of the mitzvah. Tefillin actually become holy, even if you're not doing the mitzvah. When tefillin are laying on the table, they have din of tashmisha kedusha. Sometimes becomes so united that it becomes an object that's holy. And he says, no, order 50, for instance, a korban. When you set aside an animal to be a sacrifice to Hashem, that animal is holy itself. Or klav shel stam. Or if you have the parchment of a Sefer Torah, that parchment, which is physical, is part of Kedusha. That wasn't there before Matan Torah. Before Matan Torah, even though Avraham Avinu kept all the mitzvahs and he put on tefillin, let's say, the tefillin didn't have any Kedusha. When they did the mitzvah, it was something special. But since he wasn't given the commandment, so then it didn't become holy. While after Matan Torah, the Eibishter made that the ruchnius, the godliness, could connect and become part together with the gashmius. That happened by Matan Torah, but there was a preparation and a hagdama to it. The hachon, the preparation and the introduction to the chibur durch Matan Torah, that the connection that Matan Torah made is given freer. Happened even before. It happened before, not just as an introduction, but that gave the power that we should label later by Matan Torah, be able to be mechaber, connect gashmis and ruchnis. So, erst einmal, wo der Torah, wo in Torah, im Pshuta Shel Mikra wird erzählt, the first place where we find in Torah, in simple pshat, not hidden up, all kinds of beauty, but in simple poshet psukim, where we find a connection between something high and something low, as Gedusha, umufresh, on the Schaber, when Isachat ver mit Tachteine Bichad Gom Ramiti, that Gedusha. And what does Gedusha mean? The word Kodesh means separated. That's the real meaning. When say something is holy, what do we mean is holy? Translate holy. Holy means that it's separated from earthly things, from physical things. So where is the first time where we find something that's separated, that's holy, that's beyond? Should come nischaber v'nisach, come united with something that's low, be yichud gomer v'amiti, with a real union to become together. That's nesuy Yitzchak Rivka. That's the marriage of Yitzchak Rivka. They represent, when they got married, it represents the union very close of high level and low level. Where do we see it? Based on the sunim is Yitzchak. When Yitzchak got married, it was very holy, very high. First of all, he was the son of Avraham. He had a bris, and not only a bris. Shmuel also had a bris, but he was the first one that had a bris to 8 days. Many more things. Plus, he had all great things he received from Avraham. Is besides all that, is a demel given Norden Mesiras Nefesh from Akeda. He was after the test and the Mesiras Nefesh he had by the Akeda. And he was nis'ala geworden to the Dargif and Eilat Mimo. He reached such a high level that he was called an Eilat Mimo. He was like a korban himself, a complete korban. Kedusha betachlis. Complete Kedusha. And that's why he couldn't leave Eretz Yisrael, because he was a korban. So you can imagine, he was such a high level. Rivke is given Bas Besur, Laches Lovish, she was the daughter of Besur, was a Rosher. and she was the sister of Lavan, who was a Rasha, from Padan Aram. Padan Aram was bad people, besides was Chutz La'aretz, was out there at Yisrael. Was saying Chutz La'aretz Kedailoch. Chutz La'aretz was not good for it. For Yitzchak couldn't go. Ain't Kedailoch to Yitzchak. So she was, came from a very low place. He was in a very high place. She came from a low place. Therefore, in his movement, that we understand that the shlichus from Eliezer to bring a Rivka from a came upon the Chutz La'aretz Leisha to Yitzchak Mimo. So we understand that the shlichus that Eliezer got to bring Rivka from her place in Padan Aram, from Chutz La'aretz, and bring him what she should become, a wife to Yitzchak, which is an Eilat Mimo. And when you have a husband and wife, let's say you connect and you become like one person, one flesh. So it's a great elevation to something that was coming from very low. When Avram and Sarah got married, and given Eider Avram is given and Tommy Avram wasn't that great. It was before he became a Tommy, which means complete in his Avedas Hashem. That happened through the mitzvah of Milah. This happened before. Eider is a nefesh rasa b'choran. Before even what it says in the beginning of Lech Lecha that he was makar of other Yidden. Etc. In the Zeit when Avram and Sarah seine gewesen Bur Kasdim. When did they get married? When Avram and Sarah were still themselves in Ur Kasdim. Over base of even he was in the house of his father of Terah. Then they still got married. And then Ha'ora 58, the Rebbe says there's an argument. When did he marry her? When he was 25 years old. Another opinion was 50 years old. But for sure, when he was still by his father's house, which was Terach Kedin Shos Tshuva, in the house of Terach, before Terach the Tshuva. Was amongst so you can't say it was a very, very high level that got connected to a low level, because they were Avram and Sarah together were in the same level of not so high. But Yitzchak and Rivka was not like that. Yitzchak was very, very high. She came from very, very low, and the marriage means the yichud, the union, the connection between a high thing and something picking it from the low thing and being connected. My son was similar. What happened to the Ovid is a sign to the children. Is movement at the simim and the simas of the yichud the chibur that's chuvit matan Torah. So we understand that the simim, the sign, which really means the power that was given, that by matan Torah we're able to connect. There was the connection of very high and very low. That nemtzich from the Yitzchak Rivka. That comes from the marriage of Yitzchak Rivka. So when we said before the marriage of Yitzchak Rivka is connected to matan Torah, we see how. It's the beginning of Matan Torah. What Matan Torah accomplished started all with the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And the Rebbe says in Order 61, that's interesting, that there was one mitzvah that Avram had similar to the mitzvahs after Matan Torah. The difference, Avram and Matan Torah were commanded. Avram did the mitzvahs not being commanded. One mitzvah was commanded, that's the mitzvah of Milah. And that mitzvah of Milah itself is a mitzvah that the Kedusha remains even after the mitzvah is done. So here we have something, because when you do the bris is there forever in the person. So the Kedusha that comes down is something that has an effect on the Gashmis. So already there, anything that had to do with Matera started with Avram. And that's the reason why when Avram asked Eliezer to swear that he's going to do the mission, he told him, put your hand on my thigh. Why did he do that? Because when you swear, you have to hold an object that's holy. There was no holy objects by Avram, because every object, a Sefer Torah, a film, was not holy, like we said before, because they were not commanded by Hashem. But the mitzvah Milah was commanded. That's why he said do that. So it started already to a certain degree by Avram, but not really. But by Yitzchak started Matan Torah. And in Order 62, the Rebbe says that the Chazal, the Chachamim tell us in certain Tagmenis and Bereishis Rabbah that when Eliezer gave Rivka the 2 bracelets, is connected the 2 luchas. When he gave him, it said it was Asor Zov Mishkolim, it was 10 Zov the weight, is connected Aseres Adibris. So we see another remez here, hint that what happened when the connection, when you gave her the things as a becoming a kala for Yitzchak, is connected to Matan Torah. Rebbe says, based on this, we could answer it to me, Anal, what you asked him first, Sif Aleph, and then was there Nenem Yad Batfilas Eliezer is given noch Mitam, Yisrael Mer Miyad Batfilas Meisha B'Shleim. He asked in the beginning, why was it that by Eliezer, it was not like Meisha Shleim that came right away, but by Eliezer, it was even before. Like the Meisha Shleim, right after finish, right away they were answered. By Eliezer, he was answered even before. Why? As er is nennig geworden, noch Eider hat sich gern sein Tefillah. That he was answered before his tefillah was finished. Mashenkim Meisha Shleim, Shit, das given Kachleis Tefillah. Meisha Shleim says it was when they finished. Now we understand why. For dos is verbunden mit der Meile von Teire, von Ninyan Avu and Beisabish. We said that The reason they were answered right away because all three represent Dveikus in Hashem. But Eliezer represents Dveikus of Hashem to Torah. Moshe is to Nevuah, and Mishloim is Beis Hamikdash. There is a greater connection between Torah and the Eibishter than the Nevuah to the Eibishter, and then the Beis Hamikdash to the Eibishter. And therefore, by Eliezer, which is connected to Matan Torah, it was even faster because it's a stronger union. Where do we see it? And the Rebbe says like this: the Gila Elkus was Nimshah Ba'Novia Teres Beis Hamikdash is a Tzvei Zachem Asver Nisachad Yachad. By the Gila Elkus by a Novi or by the Beis Hamikdash, they became united. But two things that got united. Okay, the far Zetten as in Gila Nevu is given B'chol Novi. We see by Nevu, by every Novi was Kedim Shenis Nabe Beis HaNevu Lachar HaNevu. It's not constant. There was time before it was a Novi, and he became a Novi. Not only there, and then afterwards was after the Nevuah. In other words, it's not something that's there constantly. There was a time when the Nevuah stopped, but it shows that as much as the Nevuah is connected to Hashem, and it's not just close, but connected, it's not one mamash with Hashem, because to be mamash with Hashem has to be eternal. It can't be just for time being. Now you're a Novi, now you're not a Novi, you have no Nevuah, or there's no more Nevuah. Beis Hamikdash also didn't last forever. The Bayesheni Choser Hey in the second Beis Hamikdash, there's a pasuk that talks about the Beis Hamikdash and it's missing a Hey. So the Gemara says human because there were 5 things that were missing in the second Beis Hamikdash that were there in the first. So it's not the same. Also, Rabbi Gimel Regolim Yireh V'Yiro, by only the 3 Yom Tovim it says you could go up to Hashem. Yontif they had to go up, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, and you would see Hashem. You would be seen by Hashem. But not all year round. So this Gilui Lakus was also limited to time. Ein Aveda Balaylo. When they served the Eibishter, they did the Aveda in Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't done at night. Ubifrat Churban Beis Hamikdash. Especially now, you see, there's no Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash destroyed. Even though the Rambam says that in the beginning Hilchos Beis Abchira, that the Kedusha that came down in the Beis Hamikdash was never of this bottle, even though we don't have a place. So, but the Beis Hamikdash Hagashmi, but the physical Beis Hamikdash, where they actually saw with their eyes the Oren, you could see the Oren seeing something that takes up space and doesn't take up space at the same time. The Gamba Be'asheni in second Beis Hamikdash you didn't. There was no Oren, but you saw Asor and Nisim Nasa. There were 10 miracles that were done. That physical building was Chorev Givon was destroyed. Amatzev as Be'ene Bosa Zetman Nit Gilui Lakus in a way that physically you do not see the Gilui Lakus. That means that it's not really one with Hashem. The Balda the Gilui Lakus Shabem is Nischadish Gevon in Zeir Metzias because it was a new thing. Now there was a separate Metzias. It said there's a separate person, or by Besamik there's a separate Inyan, and that Inyan became Dovuk to the Eibishter. But it happened something happened to that Metzias. That Ibri Shayech in them a hefsek. It's possible there should be a hefsek, should be a separation because it's not be'etzem one with the Eibishter, even though it turned out to be. Now the word Shayech, it's possible that Rebbe says doesn't have to be. It could have been forever, but it's Shayech. It should stop as we see that it's not eternal, like we see the things that we said. Saiben Nevuah, Saiben Negevis Hamikdash. Shenken Teira is mechatchila is achmet elakus. Teira is from the beginning down one with Hashem. Eraisa b'kuchabricha kol echad. Hashem and the Teira are one. In Teira is nechaychas kishenuyim. Teira there's no changes. Teira is a medes leilam alayim leilam. Is lashon of the Rambam. Teira stands forever and ever. Eilo leishinu, there are no changes. V'leigiro, no minimizing. V'leiteis, there's nothing to add. Teira is one. Because the union of Torah and Hashem is a greater union than the Nevi'as, the Novi, and the Beis Hamikdash. And since the union of Torah and Lakus is in the form that they're one, the Rebbe is this Agdus von Eden in Welt mit der Lakus, wenn sie kommt al die Torah. So the real connection of Eden and the world, because the two other things are the Nevi'as, which is a Yid who gets Nevuah connected to Eibishter, and the other one is the Beis Hamikdash is the godliness that's in the world. The real connection comes through Torah. In them Eifen. Durch Torah is Yisrael v'kuchabricha kol echad. When we talk about the Yidden being one with the Eibishter, it's also through Torah. Because it says there are 3 things that are together. And we say the Yidden and the Eibishter are one because the Torah and the Eibishter, when the Yidden are connected to the Torah. So we see even in the other two, the real connection, we say Yidden are connected to the Eibishter through Nevuah. But the real connection between the Teibische comes because they're connected to Torah. Al der also die Etze Metzias from Welt verbunden mit Torah. Also the Metzias of Welt, which we said, the Beis Hamikdash was a part of the Welt, of the world, connected to Hashem, is also connected to Torah. Nicht nur is Welt by shopping when we Torah. First of all, the whole world was created because of the Torah. But not only that. That's first of all. In Aif, nach Torah and Welt bleiben zwei besondere Sachen. When we say the world was created because of Torah, so it seems like two separate things. There's a Welt, and why was this world created? Because of the Torah. It does show that the real thing in Welt is Torah, but it's still two separate things. But it's more than that. That Etzem Kiyum Elam is up at Torah. The mere existence of the world is dependent on Torah. The Chazal tell us, Hashem, when he created the world, he made a condition with the world. He said, if the Yidden will accept the Torah later on, fine, you will be. But if not, you won't exist. So it comes out from here. Is that knife in Yisrael. The mere existence of the world is if they fulfill the condition of Yidden receiving the Torah. So this is like in brackets, the Rebbe says that the main connection is Torah more than Beis Hamikdash and Nevuah. But we see that in the other two, the connection to Hashem that's there in Welt and the connection to Hashem is there in Yidden, which are the other represented by the Beis Hamikdash and by Nevuah, is also really connected there, because the real connection to the Eibishter is Torah. That's the real union. When the Father, the Nana by Tfilas Eliezer, that's when Eliezer was answered in connection to the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, which vice of Kolos in Yonaterikton, which, as we said before, shows the concept of Torah. From Terem Kilo Ladaber. It was there not when he finished speaking, but before he finished speaking. Why? When the Meine kommt noch ein Gemarat Tfilah. If an answer comes after you finish, is a Bavais, it shows. It takes no time, but it comes after you finish. Shows shows that what the tefillah is talking about is not really something that's really one with Hashem. It's like a level that you're connected to the Shechina, but the far kommt der meine miyad. That's why it's answered right away. Like we said before, if your mom is connected to it, it's no space in between, so you're answered right away. Aber die Dveikus ist Kiperusha bepashtet zwei Sachen, was seine geworden haben. It's like a Dveikus. What's Dveikus means? Connection. Two things are connected. There are two things there. The fact is that Tfilah minus eich beifan temelazeh. So the answer to the Tfilah is the same. Nor bekira v'dichuk. It's very close and dibuk, and it's very united. So it comes right away. But right away also means after. Frier kommt the Tfilah, first you daven. After you finish, comes right away the answer. So when two separate things are connected, not close, there's a space in between. If it's mamish one connected, it goes right away. But it has to first be this, and then comes this. From here to here is right away. But if what you're asking for in your tefillah is something that's to begin with one with Eibishter, so the answer is the same way. In Anefen, was me kennen in die Top-Teilung from the Tefillah. You can't separate from the Tefillah because Torah is one with the Eibishter. So the answer that's dependent on the closeness and the connection is the same way. But we're not done, and what we're saying here is it didn't get answered when you finished right away. When you but not that. As kol advarim eile, when you finished everything, noch ein gemara Tefillah after you finish davening, or terem kila before you finish, because when you're still davening, it's already there because you're not a separate entity. So Torah's connection to the Eibishter is not a separate entity. That's Dovuk, but that's even more. And since Yitzchak and Rivka's marriage is a representation of Torah, that's why here it was answered not after he finished, which would show that goes to a second thing, right away, but to a second thing. It's all one thing. Then the Rebbe adds, and this pasuk, where it says that before he finished speaking, right away, Rivka was going out, that's he was answered. The Chassidus says, as in it says like this: when Lakus comes Nimshach, when Hashem sends down certain godly revelations of things into this world, there are two ways it could happen. Because in it's all hinted in the pasuk where it says, "Hashaleach mrasi oretz ad meir oretz v'oretz." Two things. Hashaleach mrasi oretz means you send your words to the oretz. It means Eibishter sends down his amshachas, whatever is coming to the world. And the second half is another way. Ad meir oretz becomes very fast. What does that mean? Hashaleach mrasi oretz. When it says he sends down his words to the earth, is the amshach was kommt in on lamata and even from lat. It comes down here slow, comes slow down. What says it means as you get door them say that it goes through all the levels from one level to another, and it goes through the Stalshus from level to level. When it comes to each level, the Hamshocha gets united with that level. And then it comes to the next level, gets united with that level. Till finally it comes down here. Then there's another type of Hamshocha that it goes right away, fast, meaning as it comes up gleich lamata mit amihiris, it goes in speed. It jumps over to say the Stalshus, which really means everything has to go to say the Stalshus. But the first level is, I just want to give a moshel. You have two trains, you have the local and the express. They both pass the same stop. The local stops at each stop and the express doesn't. Same thing here. When it comes down, each level it stops and it becomes that level, and that level goes down lower. And the other level is it goes straight through. It passes the Stalshus, but that's only called B'derech Maiver. The other one is Derech Hislapshus. It gets addressed and part of that level. That's B'derech Maiver. That's called Ad Mehera Yoris, where it goes straight. That means the same level, the way it's in the beginning, stays and comes down that way. But the Sibis Achilik says, what's the difference? When is it like this and when is it like this? The difference is from welchen Nord is Nimshach. Where does it start? Where does the Hamshocha come from? Then the Hamshocha is not dargin if it comes from such a level that's connected to the Shtalshalis. In other words, it's not the highest level, which is beyond of the Elamis. It's connected to what the Elamis are. Then it comes down, since it's connected to the Shtalshalis, say the Shtalshalis, so it comes down through the Shtalshalis. So it goes through, the Rebbe says, B'derech Hislapshus. It becomes Nislabish, dressed, put into every level, and goes further. So that's called slow, but it's not slow in time mainly. It's slow in darget. You don't get the same level that you had started off. When it comes down, it gets changed and changed and changed. Shasa b'di Hamshocha from the Meir Leki was his hecha from the Shtalshas. When that Hamshocha from the godly light comes from a level which is beyond the Shtalshas, then what comes up like Lamato in a nation from here. Then it comes down here, straight down, fast. It doesn't have to go through everything. That should stop and become slapish and again. It goes straight, passes down and goes straight through. I say this environment time was by dich leisha now given an mind PM and they from yet. See, this explains based on what we just said. That's why by these three, when it came down, the answer came down right away. They were answered right away. All these three things, when they davened, they reached to the level all the way l'mayla mishtalshelis. Now, and when they reach that level, they were bringing it down from that level. We just said that if it starts off in a level of l'mayla mishtalshelis, was vet nimshach lamata and anefim vat meira yoris, it comes down here in a level of going fast. Now, so the male, all three are that, because all three reached side the union of Isamik, side the union of Nevuah, all the way, and also the union of Yitzchak Rivka. They all came from l'mayla mishtalshelis. This will also explain the Maila of Eliezer's tefillah over the tefillah of Moshe Shleima was dafke by him is given terem kilu ladaber. Only by him it was before he finished. And we said before, why is that? So based on this, we'll understand that too. And since the whole purpose was because of Yitzchak, as Yitzchak is in Yonivuras, we know that Avraham is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gvura. Now Gvura, sometimes it means din, it means judgment, but it also has a meaning of takberes achayis, when the chayis is very strong. And Chassidus explains the connection between the two pshotim in Gvura, but it shows gaberes achayis. The Rabbi is the mind of the tefillah given a neitim for takberes. Therefore, by him, when the tefillah was answered, not only nit stam mihiris, wasn't only fast, and the reason fast because it's l'mayel mishtalshel is remember takberes in the mihiris. In that being fast, it came much stronger, and therefore it was terem kilu l'daber. That's where it was before. It came down even faster than the other. Because inside it, l'mayel m'seiel l'shtalshel is gufa. This is a takberes even stronger. Yesh leimer as the bira anal ban likud. The Rebbe could say that this whole explanation that the Rebbe gave before in the union of these three, etc., which is in this likud. Strange that the Rebbe should refer to the Siche before, call it the likud. We used to call every week the pamphlet came out till turned into Svarim, likud Siches, but every week is a pamphlet. And we used to call it the likud. Interesting. And here the Rebbe says that the beer, it was said earlier in the likud, yesh la'asimei zum beer shepteres chassidus. We can show how it fits to what we just quoted from Chassidus, because it's had say that the Shtalshel is this Achdes from Welten der Lakus Kviochel, wie Sach welche ist noch eine Sache, die wir mit der Lakus. Looking from say that the Shtalshel is is the union of Welt with the Lakus, Kiviyochel, like something that is there, and it became united with the Lakus. Dafke mitzad Ein Sof Shalamayla Mishtal Shalis, but Dafke because of the Ein Sof, which is higher than the Shtal Shal, with Fraten Tzad Atzma, going all the way to the top highest level, the Eibishter himself, is Welt mit Chatchila Miyuchad Mamash mit the Lakus. So your Welt is connected. From the beginning, it is one with the Lakus. The Yesh HaNivra is Eizach Kiviyochel with the Yesh HaMiti. The Yesh HaNivra is one thing with the Yesh HaNivra, with Nesh HaMiti. Yesh HaMiti is the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the real Yesh. That's the Lashon of the Rambam. The Eibishter is the real Yesh HaMiti. And Welt is Yesh, it's something, which is Yesh HaNivra. Too far apart. But in essence, in the Yesh, that the Welt looks like a Yesh, is because Be'etzem, it's the Yesh of the Eibishter, with the way Chassidus explains it at length. So that fits to what we said before. We said before that the Hisardas of Welt with the Eibishter is, now we're saying that it's Mitzat Seder Ishtalshelis, the Hisardas and Welt with Lakus, Hisardas, but not really. So, as we said before, that the Hisardas, even if the Beis Hamikdash with the Lakus, is like two things get nisachet. And the real Amayla Mishtalshelis is that it's the Chatchila Elakus. So it doesn't say clearly the Rebbe how it's connected to the three dargis, but we do see that the reason it came, the Chassidus says it came down so fast because it came down. Chassidus doesn't say why Eliezer was faster. Chassidus says Bechlolos. Why is it so fast? Because it comes from the Amayla Mishtalshelis. And the Rebbe says that therefore the real yichud of Welt with the Lakus is because looking at it from its Adlamayla Mishtal, which it comes down as even more Beisagdas, and that comes, as the Rebbe said before, through Torah, but the Rebbe doesn't go on, doesn't finish off exactly to show the similarity between the two, but the Klolas Dikadinian, that why is it so fast? Because of its Amayla Mishtal. It needs still some explanation in the last piece, how we connect it to the different levels, as he said before, in the Likud, as the Rebbe referred to it.